Hello friends, good evening. Welcome to Mission Possible by PK. So this video is for the preparation of those people who are writing their JAIB exams, and this subject is your accounting and finance for bankers. So as said last week, we have been posting videos for JAIB, and out of the three modules we have started posting videos for the two modules. One was your principles and practices of banking, and the next one was your law and regulatory. So now this is your paper 2. So we have divided the entire modules, all the three modules, into various sub chapters, and we have been covering each chapter in a specific video. So the first videos of the other two modules have been posted, and this is the first video of this module, which is related to your accounting and finance. So I hope the videos are beneficial to you, and we have a Telegram group. The link is given in the description. It is an open discussion group, so you can please join it and give your feedback, and also you can ask your doubts for any kind of clarification. And before starting, as always, myself, I am Bharat. I am a chartered accountant, and this video is posted with a sole initiative of providing quality education to all those people who are preparing for your exams. So let's get started. So this paper 2, the subject is accounting and finance for bankers, and in this subject totally there are four different modules. The first one is related to your business mathematics and finance, which covers all your concepts like your simple interest and compounding interest and all those things. And the second, third, and fourth module is related to your accounting. So many people find this a bit tough because many of you might be from a different background other than accounts background. Some of you might be from BSc or mathematics background. So those people generally feel that this module is a bit tough because it has accounting subject and it is not so easily understood, and most of the videos in YouTube are posted in Hindi, so it makes it even more tough. So my aim is to solely make this subject as much easy as possible, so that not only for your exams perspective but also in your day-to-day working life and also in your day-to-day knowledge perspective, this entire video is very much useful to you. So now we will just start with the module 2, that is principles of bookkeeping and accountancy. So the business mathematics and finance we will cover in the end, because this is one such subject which most of you are familiar with, and so I just decided to start with accountancy so that the module 2, 3, 4 can be completed first, which is actually the kind of the toughest in this particular subject. So I'll just try to make this subject as much easy as possible, and let's get started. So module B, principles of bookkeeping and accountancy. So here we will be covering various different units. So in this particular video we will be covering unit number 1, that is your definition, scope and accounting standards. So first of all, we will just try to understand the meaning of accounting. Accounting is generally called as the language of business. So language of business is because any organization or any company, it can communicate with others only because of accounting or because of the financial statements. That is what expresses what the organization is doing and how the organization is performing. So generally accounting is often called as the language of business, and the basic function of any language is to serve as a means of communication, and the purpose of accounting is to communicate or report the results of the business operations and the financial health of the organization. So accounting is the only way by which we can assess the performance of an organization. If we generally look at any company or take any company, for example Tata Steel or your Jindal Steel, how we know whether they are performing well or not? The only way is to see their financial statements. So these financial statements or accounting statements serve as a means or serve as a communication to let the people know how the organization is doing, whether it is doing good, whether it is making good profits, whether it is giving good remuneration to employees. So all these things are factored in your accounting, and that's why it is said that accounting is the language of a business organization. The features of accounting. Accounting is an art of recording, classifying and summarizing business transactions. It not only records the business transactions but also records them in an orderly manner. So what here he is trying to say is that accounting is not just a recording of the business transaction, it is recording them in a proper manner. If we just write anything in a haphazard manner, for example if we write ABC, it is like more meaningful conclusion, isn't it? Because it is in a orderly manner. But if we write ASWDZ, then what happens? People don't understand what you're trying to say. So that's why here accounting is an art because the way the financial statements are presented give a meaningful conclusion. first it generally starts with the profit and loss, and then it has your balance sheet, and then it has your cash flow statements, and then it has your notes to accounts. Notes to accounts explains everything in a detailed manner. So it is an orderly record of transaction. Everything is done in a proper manner, in a proper sequence. That's why accounting is often called as an art of recording transactions in an orderly manner. Accounting summarizes the data recorded in books of accounts and presents them in a systematic way in the form of trial balance, profit and loss account, and balance sheet. So these are the three main important components of your accounting or financial statement. Apart from this, there is also something which is called as cash flow statement. That is also one important part of your financial statement. So what accounting does, it summarizes the data, because generally for a large organization, every day if you see, there will be thousands and thousands of transactions posted. But if we tell all the transactions to everyone who is reading the financial statements, it doesn't make any sense, because we are only interested to know the summary. And that's why it is said that accounting is summarizing the data in a very much orderly form. So whatever all the expenses are recorded, it clubs together and says the total expenses in your financial statements. Thereby it makes it more simplified, and also it makes it more summarized, so that it is easily understood by the people who are reading the financial statements. And the components of the financial statements which summarizes this are trial balance, profit and loss account, balance sheet, and there is one more component which is also called as your cash flow statement. Accounting records the transaction in terms of money, and this is very much obvious. The reason why accounting is done is that we have to know the transaction value in monetary terms. For example, if the company is making profit, we are very much interested to know how much profit. And how do we know that? We can know that only if the accounting is stated in monetary terms. So accounting records business transactions by expressing them in terms of money. This makes the recorded data more meaningful. And accounting records only the transactions of a financial character. That means only those which have a financial impact or a monetary impact are recorded in your books of accounts. Anything which is not monetary, for example, if someone is giving some benefit to some other person which is non-monetary, then those kind of transactions are not generally recorded in your accounting. Only all those transactions which have a direct impact on the profit of the company are recorded in your financial statements. Accounting also interprets the financial data. And the purpose and objectives of accounting, you just need to remember this and keep them in mind, because sometimes they just ask this as part of your objective questions. They give one or two or maybe one objective, and then they try to ask you to identify the odd one out. So the purpose and objectives of accounting is to keep a systematic record, to ascertain the results of the operations. So ascertain the results, that means how much the profit has made, how much the asset is built up, and how much the company has taken in a loan. All these things are your objectives. To ascertain the financial position. Financial position means whether the company has a weak financial position, whether the company has a good financial position. How do we know that? By looking at the financial statements. If the company is in a loss and it has a lot of debt, that means a lot of borrowing, then it clearly indicates that the company's financial position is not so good. So that is what here the purpose and objective of your accounting is. And to facilitate rational decision making, that means based on your financial results, you take decisions, or you take various initiatives. If your performance is very good, then you try to implement more and more initiatives in the next year. Or if your performance is not good, you try to identify the reasons, why your production is low, why the company is not able to make profits. So it helps you in your decision making and to satisfy the requirements of the law. So this is something related to your statutory act. So everyone know that there is something called as Companies Act 2013. Earlier it was called as 1956. It has been replaced by Companies Act 2013. So Companies Act 2013 has various sections which say that all the companies should maintain their financial statements as per the schedules which are given by the Companies Act. And the schedules are nothing but your profit and loss account, balance sheet, cash flow. So we have to meet the statutory requirements also. Every year, every company, whether it is a public company or it is a private company, they have to publish their financial results, and they have to submit it to the MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. This is mandatory. There is no exemption for it. So that is why account or financial statements is very much important, not only for all the above purposes, but also mainly to satisfy the Companies Act requirements, which is a statutory requirement. Then the types of accounting. So there is financial accounting, there is cost accounting, there is management accounting, there is social responsibility accounting, human resource accounting, inflation accounting. So all these are different types of accounting, but the most commonly followed is financial accounting and your cost accounting. Of course, we will learn about each and everything in the upcoming few pages, but for now we will just start with financial accounting. And before that, we just need to know the accounting standards in India and its definition and scope. So what are accounting standards? The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, recognizing the need to harmonize the diverse accounting policies and practices, constituted the Accounting Standards Boards on 1977. So, what here they are trying to say is that the ICAI, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, they started a board which is called as the Accounting Standards Board on 21st April 1977, and the main function of this board is to formulate various accounting standards so that Council of ICA may mandate such standards. That means a proper standard should be there for any financial statements. That if you see the financial statements of any company from their website, if you take every company's financial statements will be in a standard format. Why it is in a standard format? It is because ICAI has stipulated some accounting standards which should be followed by every company irrespective of whether it is a public company or a private company. Why it is done? It is done in order to bring uniformity in comparison. If these accounting standards are not there, what will happen? I will follow my own method, my competitor may follow his own method, and if I try to compare my results with my competitor's results, it may not be uniform. Even for the same transaction, same value, the profits may be different because the standard, the accounting standard which is followed, or the accounting methodology which is followed is different. That's why, in order to create a uniformity, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has developed these accounting standards which should be mandatorily followed by every company irrespective of their constituency. That means whether they are a public company or whether they are a private company, it doesn't matter. These standards have to be followed. And the Accounting Standard Board shall determine the broad areas in which accounting standards need to be formulated and the priority about the selection. And in preparation of the accounting standards, the Accounting Standard Board will be assisted by various study groups. It will also hold dialogues with the representative of the government, public and private sector industries. And based on the above, a exposure draft of the standard will be prepared and it will be uploaded in the website of both the MCA and the ICAI. Then after that, this draft accounting standard will receive various comments from all sectors, like government companies or private companies will give their comments or observations, and then the draft should be taken into consideration by the Accounting Standards Board, and then a final accounting standard is sent to the ICAI for submission and approval. So this is the procedure which is generally followed before publishing out any accounting standard. So this procedure has to be followed for each and every standard by the ICAI. And a mandatory accounting standard, if not followed, requires the auditors who are members of ICAI to qualify the audit reports, failing which they will be guilty of professional misconduct. So that's what I'm saying. Every company has to follow this mandatorily. If it is not followed, then the auditors who sign the balance sheet of the company will report that the company has not followed the mandatory accounting standards specified by ICAI, and hence the financial statements may not be true or may not be accurate. And even SEBI and Companies Act says that the auditors should qualify such reports. Qualify means make a qualification that the company has not followed the accounting standards properly. So this has been specified even by the SEBI as well as Companies Act as well as the ICAI. And if it is not followed or not informed by the auditor, then he is guilty of professional misconduct. Your section 134 of the Companies Act also casts a responsibility on the board of directors to comply with mandatory accounting standards. So if you look at the financial statements of any company, there will also be something called as board of directors report. It will be attached to your financial statements. In that board of directors report, the director has to state that the company has followed all the accounting standards which are specified by the ICAI. If the directors do not specify, or if the directors say that the company has not followed it, then it becomes a big disqualification in terms of signing your balance sheet. The auditors generally do not sign such a balance sheet which do not follow the mandatory accounting standards. So a lot of responsibility is there on the auditors as well as the directors of the company to ensure that these standards are followed by the company, each and every company. And also under section 129 subsection 5 of the Companies Act, where the financial statements do not comply with the accounting standards, such companies shall disclose the following: the deviation from the accounting standards, the reason for such a deviation, and the financial effects of such a deviation. There are some standards by which generally, not every standard, but some standards which give a slight power to the company, in order to modify. For example, there is something called as a depreciation. So the Companies Act has specified the useful life of each and every asset. That means, for vehicle it is 10 years, for plant and machinery it's 15 years. But if the company feels that that particular vehicle has a useful life of 15 years, then they can use that useful life of 15 years, but it has to mention this fact in the financial statements. So if the company is not following, first thing is that the auditors will not sign, and second thing, if there are such provisions where the company can slightly tilt the accounting standards, then such a fact has to be stated in your financial statements, why the company has deviated and the reason for such a deviation and the financial impact arising out of such a deviation. However, this is not applicable to each and every standard. Only one or two cases are there where the company has some liberty. Other than that, all the accounting standards has to be mandatorily followed, and if not, it is a big disqualification which is given by the auditor of that company. So based upon this, so far the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India have issued 29 accounting standards, and apart from this, they have added five more standards also. But these are all your old standards. The standards now have been replaced, and we will be covering that in the next few slides as well. So you can just remember the names for now. It's not so important because now the standards have totally been changed, and we will also tell you why it has been changed. So there is something called as, in total 32 accounting standards, 29 are very much mandatory and these three are not mandatory, but now even these three are mandatory under the new accounting standards. So we will cover that new accounting standards. So now we will just move to the next concept, which is called as your generally accepted accounting principles of USA, which is shortly called as US GAAP. Just like how we have accounting standards in India, similarly USA also has something called as generally accepted accounting principles. It is called as US GAAP. So there is a financial accounting standards board which uses GAAP as the foundation for its comprehensive set of accounting methods and practices. Just like how we have the accounting standards board, similarly in US there is something called as the financial accounting standards board which develop this accounting standards for USA, for the companies which are incorporated in USA. So based upon that, there are totally 10 concepts which are incorporated into their GAAP. The first one is principle of regularity. That means GAAP compliant accountants strictly adhere to established rules and regulations. So they have to follow the rules and regulations on a regular basis without any deviation. Principle of consistency. That means the accounting standards are followed in a consistent manner. It should be in a straightforward manner. It should not be haphazard, following it for one period, not following it for the another period. Like that, it should not be there. It should be followed on a consistent basis. Principle of sincerity. That means they should be committed to accuracy and impartiality. So they should be sincere when they try to account the financial statements of a company. And principle of permanence of methods. Consistent procedures are used in preparation of all financial reports. It is similar to your consistency. Principle of non-compensation. All aspects of an organization's performance, whether positive or negative, are fully reported with no prospect of debt compensation. That means any financial impact transaction which may be either positive or negative should be recorded in your financial statements, and there should not be any partiality. Principle of prudence. Prudence means speculation does not influence the reporting. So prudent means we have to be as sincere while reporting a company's financial statements, just like our own money. If it were our own money, how we will behave? In a similar manner, we should also try to behave while reporting the financial statements of a company. Principle of continuity. That means we should prepare the financial statements thinking that the company will continue over the longer run. It's not the end of that. So after this year's financial statements, next year the company will continue. So this continuity principle should also be applied. Principles of periodicity. That means every year or every quarter, the financial results should be published periodically. Principle of materiality. That means all the transactions are recorded in the financial statements which have materiality. That means no matter, if it is 1 rupee or 10 rupees, if it is material, it should be recorded. For a bigger company, 1 rupee may not be mattering much, but for a smaller company, even a 1 rupee is a material transaction. So materiality depends upon the size of the organization, and every transaction which has a materiality should be recorded in your financial statements. And principle of utmost good faith. All the parties involved in this preparation of financial statements should act honestly. So these are the 10 main concepts which are incorporated while following these GAAP guidelines by the US. And similar things even we have in the Indian accounting standards, which will be covered in the later part of this slide. And gap complaints makes the financial reporting process transparent, standardizes assumptions, terminology, definitions, and methods. So, that is the main reason. Every country have their own accounting standards method, but nowadays, globally they are trying to shift to a common accounting standards, which I will cover now in some time. So what here they are trying to say that any accounting standard, they have their main three motto. One is standardization. That means every company should follow the same methods, same definitions and everything. And then transparent results and also a fair view. That means the financial statement should reflect a fair view of the total happening in an organization. And there are three rules basically, and which are followed in your accounting, basic accounting principles and guidelines. So these 10 guidelines separate and organize transactions from the personal transactions of its owners, standardize currency units, explicitly disclose the time periods. They also draw on established best practices, disclosure, going concern, matching revenue. All this we will be covering now in the next few slides. So rules and accounting standards issued by the FASB and its predecessor, the Accounting Standards Board. So here what they are trying to say that before accounting standard, before the FASB, there used to be something called as the Accounting Principles Board, and after that the FASB accounting came into picture, and then they have developed these new standards, generally accepted accounting principles. So this is something which related to US GAAP. No need to focus much on this. For now you can just remember the above concepts: US GAAP, Accounting Standards Board, FASB. So these are your important concepts which you need to remember. Next comes an important concept, which is nothing but your International Financial Reporting Standard. Just now I have told you that each and every country have their own accounting standard. India's accounting standard may be different from Sri Lanka's accounting standard. Sri Lanka's accounting standard may be different from Bangladesh's accounting standard. Now, in order to solve this problem, because now a lot of MNC companies are there in picture, that means a company in India has an office in US, has an office in Europe. So, if you are trying to compare the financial statements of a MNC company which is globally situated in every part of the world, then you need to have a accounting standard which is globally accepted, isn't it? If I follow my own Indian accounting standard, how can I compare this with my reporting company which is in US and it is following US accounting standard? Their standards may be different, isn't it? My standards may be different. So how can I compare my financial results with a US company's financial results? This is absolutely not possible. So that's why there is something called as your International Financial Reporting Standard. This is something which is being adopted now by most of the countries apart from US. US has something called as US GAAP, and apart from US, all the other countries, major countries, especially UK, Europe, they follow something called as International Financial Reporting Standards. There is no major difference between US GAAP and IFRS, because IFRS has been started or implemented mainly taking guidance from US GAAP. So if you compare US GAAP and IFRS, it is still similar only. But if you compare Indian GAAP with IFRS, it is not similar. So that's why most of the countries have now started adopting International Financial Reporting Standard. Why? Because in order to globally be competitive and be globally able to compare the financial statements with various companies across this globe. So the International Financial Reporting Standards are accounting standards which are issued by the International Accounting Standards Board, IASB, with the objective of providing a common accounting language to increase transparency in the preparation of financial information. So if all the major countries start using this financial standard, then it becomes easy for everyone to compare the financial statements, no matter whether the company is an Indian company or a foreign company. If the format is same, if the standard is same, then it becomes easy to have a transparent and comparable view of the financial statements. So that is the main objective with which this International Financial Reporting Standard came into picture. So what is IASB? The International Accounting Standards Board is an independent body which was formed in 2001 with the sole responsibility of establishing the International Financial Reporting Standards. It succeeded the International Accounting Standards Committee. It was there earlier, but IASB replaced the IASC, and now IASB is the sole organization which prepares your International Financial Reporting Standards. It is based in London. It also provides the conceptual framework for financial reporting. Conceptual framework means it gives clarity on various concepts of the financial reporting standards, because a standard is generally confusing. So in order to make it more easy, it also provides the conceptual framework or the base behind which this standard is formulated. And that is the main role of your IASB. So far we have seen three important bodies. One is the Indian Accounting Standard Body, and then we have seen the FASB, which is related to your US GAAP, and now the third one, which is IASB, that is the International Accounting Standards Board, and its role is to prepare the International Financial Reporting Standards. So these three boards you need to remember, and also you need to know which countries they cater to. So IFRS is situated in London, and FASB is in US, and Indian Accounting Standards Board is in India. And the main objectives here of the IFRS Foundation are given. No need to go through in detail, but as such, the main objective is to make a lot of companies follow this standard, and based upon that, it makes it easy for a transparent and comparable financial statements. So whomsoever have adopted this IFRS should follow the rules which are specified by this board, and if they follow the rules, then obviously the company's financial statements become comparable. And there are a lot of international financial reporting standards which have been issued. So this name you need to remember, because sometimes questions come in the objective examination based upon this standards name. They may ask IFRS 6 is related to, and you need to know, you need to remember at least this. There are not many accounting IFRS standards. Totally I think you may have around for 35 to 40 accounting standards. So you just need to remember the name. Initially it starts with IFRS, and then it becomes IAS, International Accounting Standard. So the initially developed accounting standards were called as IFRS, and then it came to be called as the IAS. So you need to remember the names of all of these, because that is important, because sometimes they ask this in your objective examinations. So please do remember the names of this. I am not reading the name now because it will consume a lot of time. So you just have a look at it, and you can watch this video again and again and try to remember the names of this, and we will also post the PDF version or the image version of this in our Telegram group. So here they have given the difference between US GAAP and IFRS. Basically, no need to just look at this. I know I can explain this in a much simpler manner. Most of them are same, except for a here and there few presentation aspects. How they are presented is different, but the concepts are all the same. There is no much major difference between the US GAAP and IFRS. It is almost one and the same. So no need to go through this exercise. So next, something after this IFRS, I also just wanted to convey that based upon this IFRS, each and every country now started making own standards which are in line with IFRS. Similarly, India has now adopted this IFRS because India felt that now India has become a global bigger economy, and a lot of MNC companies are there in India, and in order to have a comparable financial statement, we also need to be aligned with the global reporting standards. So what Indian Accounting Standards Board or your ICAI has done is they have adopted this IFRS. That means they have taken this IFRS and they have merged it with the already existing Indian standards, so that now our standards are also similar to IFRS. So by this, what happens is our financial statements now are also equally comparable with your global company's financial statements. So that is the reason which I told you earlier. The accounting standards given earlier, around 32 accounting standards, are old standards. Now the new standards are called as IND AS. IND means India, AS means accounting standards. So I'll just tell you that list. IND AS. Now the accounting standards name is not 1, 2, 3 and all. It starts with IND AS. So IND AS 101, 102, and then IND AS 1278. So totally around 37 accounting standards are there, which are converged or which are merged with IFRS. You even need to remember these names because now these are in existence. The older accounting standards are no longer in existence. Now every company in India have been asked to follow these accounting standards, that is your IFRS standards. In India we generally don't call as IFRS because we are governed by Companies Act, and IFRS is governed by your IASB. So what we have done is we have just merged it. Whatever the IFRS says, we have implemented it in the Indian accounting standards, so that we can become more globally comparable and competitive. So these are the names of the standards which are matching your IFRS. So IND AS 101 deals with your first time adoption of Indian accounting standards. IND AS 102 deals with share based payments. 103 deals with business combinations. So all these are your new accounting standards which have been come into picture and which have been implemented by the ICAI as well as the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. You just need to have a remember of these things. These names are important because these questions may come, the India is 18 stands for. So you just need to remember the names, even though not so priority, but yes, you cannot predict the pattern of the exam, so it is better to have a look at this and remember this. Only 37 accounting standards, so you just need to remember this. You can just have a glance at it every day, and automatically it will come to your mind whenever you see these accounting standards. So these are the Ind AS accounting standards which are currently in picture. So if someone asks you now whether we are in alignment with IFRS, you can say yes, we are in alignment with IFRS. We no longer follow the old Indian accounting standards. We are now merged with IFRS and we follow the globally accepted international financial reporting standards. Hope this is understood by all of you. So next we will come to the concept called transfer pricing. So next we will see the concept called as transfer pricing. So what is this transfer pricing all about? If there are two group companies of the same group, that means, bigger companies will always have subsidiary companies. For example, if I am a company, Britannia, I have a factory in Bangalore, I have a factory in Chennai. So both of these companies come under the same group company. That means when I present my financial statements, it will be both Bangalore plus Chennai company. But many a times what happens is, products in Bangalore are sold to your Chennai company, and then Chennai company sells it to the customers. So in these cases, what happens, there is a possibility of reporting a false number. That means myself, a Bangalore company, I can say that because it is Chennai company, it is my own company, instead of 10 rupees, which is the market value, I will give it at 5 rupees only, because it is my own company. So in this case, what happens, you're wrongly stating. That means why you are wrongly stating? Because it is your own company. If you had sold that product to a third person or a third party, you would have sold it at 10 rupees, but because it is your own group company, you are selling it at a lesser amount of 5 rupees, which is totally against the concept of your basic accounting standard. What the accounting standards we have seen above says that, there is something called as honesty. There is something called as true and fair view. That means when you report something in your financial statements, it should be a true and fair view of the transaction. In this case, what you are doing, you are reducing the price, you are reducing your sales income. So what happens, generally if I sell at 10 rupees, then I have to pay the income tax on 10 rupees. But now because I am selling it at 5 rupees, I am reducing my income tax, which is totally against the law. I am committing an indirect fraud here. So in order to control these type of activities, there is something called as transfer pricing. So what is this transfer pricing? When a two group companies of the same group are involved, and when they transfer products from one group or one subsidiary to another subsidiary, they should follow the rules of accounting and your income tax together, and they have to see that the price or the monetary value at which the transaction is done represents the true and fair value. So that is your concept of transfer pricing. So if you read the description here, transfer pricing is the method which is used to sell a product from one subsidiary to another within a company. That means the overall group company is same, but the subsidiary companies are different. So that is what the main purpose of transfer pricing is. So I hope you understood the concept here. So I'll just try to make it more simpler here. If you see, there is a group company which is A, and under this group company there are two subsidiary companies. One is B and another one is C. Now if B transfers to C, then what is the indication? All of these, both of them belong to the same parent, isn't it? So if in general, if B sells to other people, he sells it at 10 rupees. But because C is his own sibling, because the parent is same, he tries to modify the price and sell it at 5 rupees. So what happens here? You are understating your income, isn't it? Instead of 10 rupees income, you are understating it by 5 rupees. Because you are understating, you are also reducing your income tax. So first thing, it is not a true and fair view, which is against your accounting standard. Second thing, you are also not complying with the income tax rules. So in order to control these kind of activities, the concept of transfer pricing came into picture. The key issues: preferred customers, preferred suppliers, revenue basis. So not so important, you can just see the traditional methods. So market rate transfer price. So there are different methods in order to control this activity. So one of this method is your market rate transfer price. Simply, the name itself says market rate. So you should follow the market rate. If you are selling the same product to some external party at a particular amount, you should charge the same amount when you are selling it to your group company or your sibling company or your sister company. So that is the meaning of market rate transfer price. So the simplest method, here we are going to use the market price. Then next, adjusted market rate. Adjusted market rate means sometimes you can adjust the market rate. For example, if you are selling it to a third party, you keep 10 rupees, but if you are selling it to your own subsidiary company, you can keep maybe 9.5 rupees, because there is some leverage. Why you are keeping 9.5? You can adjust it based upon your customer preference. That means if you are selling it to a third party, there is a risk of non-payment. That means the third party may give you money or may not give you money. But if it is your same group company, there is a guarantee that you will get the money, because it is your own company, it is your own sibling company. So there is a guarantee that the money will not be lost. So you can give a 0.5 discount to such a transaction. So that is nothing but your adjusted market rate. The adjustment also should be having a nominal value. You cannot adjust 5 rupees, 10 rupees and all. You can adjust it, but it should be an acceptable adjustment, not something which is haphazard. And next is negotiated transfer pricing. It may be necessary to negotiate a transfer price between subsidiaries without using any market price as baseline, because there is no market price for such a goods. There are sometimes some products there will be no market price, because the product which you are selling it to your group company may be a kind of a raw material or maybe something kind of a work in progress. Because sometimes what happens is, same group companies may perform different activities. I will first receive the raw material, I will do some amount of activity with that raw material, and then I will pass on that to my next company. Then he will do some more activity and turn that product into a finished one. So in these type of cases, you do not have a market price, isn't it? Because the product is not fully completed, it is still work in progress stage and it is partially cooked. So in that cases, negotiated transfer pricing, that means both the companies should negotiate and fix a price which should be reasonable. Next one is contribution. If there is no market price at all for which to derive a transfer price, then alternative is to create a price based on a component's contribution margin. Contribution margin here is nothing but your profit margin. So sometimes whenever there is no particular market price, you just need to devise a particular price based upon the profit which you are going to earn from it. So that is nothing but your contribution margin transfer pricing. Resale price method. Resale price method, similar to your cost plus method, is found by working backwards from the transactions. In resale price method, what happens is, the amount at which you will sell the product to a third party will be calculated. You will be adding each and everything to that. You will be adding the supply chain value, you will be adding the manufacturing value, manufacturing cost and fixed cost and everything, and then you will try to arrive at a particular method. This is known as your resale price method. It is similar to your cost plus method, whereas in your cost plus method it is a top down approach. Resale price method is your bottom up approach. So cost plus transfer pricing is also explained here. If there is no market price, then what you can do is you can just try to calculate the total cost of a product and then add a margin to it. That means if you feel that, this product, in order to make this product, it cost me 8 rupees. I will add a margin. That means profit margin. Whenever you are selling a product, you will add a profit, isn't it? So 8 plus 2 rupees, 10 rupees. 10 rupees is your cost plus amount, and that is the amount which I will be charging to my sister company or sibling company. So this is nothing but your cost plus transfer pricing. Cost based transfer pricing. Cost based, having each subsidiary transfer its products to another subsidiaries at cost, which after successive subsidiaries add their cost to the products. This means that the final subsidiary that sells the completed goods to a third party will recognize the entire profit associated with the product. In this, it is a similar to cost plus transfer pricing, but what happens is that there is a chain of activities which takes place. That means A will first complete one activity and sell it to B at cost. B then will transfer it to C. C then will transfer it to D. All of these companies are same group companies, and D is the company which will finally sell it to the customer. So D will add all the profit margin into his financial statements and sell it to the customer. So this is called as cost based transfer pricing method. So these are the broad categories of your transfer pricing method, but the most important one is your market rate, which is always followed, and then something called as your cost plus transfer pricing method and your cost based transfer pricing method. These three methods are very much important, and you should always remember it. You need to know the difference between each of them. Market rate is nothing but your market rate, the rate which your competitor follows. That means if my competitor is charging 10, or if I am charging 10 to an external customer, then I should also be following a similar rate to my sister company. So that is what your market rate transfer price is. Adjusted market rate means you can make some minor adjustments. Negotiated transfer pricing, because there is no particular market value for a product, then you can negotiate it based upon your convenience, but it should be a decent and fair negotiation. And then contribution margin is nothing but based on your profit, your costs are fixed. Resale price method is your backup, that means your bottom up approach, and cost plus is your top down approach, and cost based transfer pricing is your simple cost based, where a lot of subsidiaries or a lot of activities are involved. So transfer pricing is nothing but the price which you should charge when you are dealing with your group companies, and the price which you are charging should be reasonable, and it should comply with the rules of both income tax as well as your companies act. So that is the concept of your transfer pricing. Hope this is understood, and if you don't understand, please let me know in the Telegram group, and I will just try to make it even more clear. So now we have covered the unit 1, which is all about your basics of accounting, the accounting standards, the meaning of accounting, the purpose of accounting, transfer pricing. These are all the basic concepts which you should know before proceeding to the next level. So the next one is the main chapter for you, unit 2, the basic accounting procedures. So here we will see what are all the concepts in accountancy, how the transactions are recorded in your accounting books, and how to have a fair understanding of how to record the transactions. If it is an expense, how do we record it? If it is an income, how do we record that? So all these are covered in your unit 2. So your unit 2 is the base for all your next chapters that we will be covering in this accounting module. So please be sure to understand this unit 2 properly. If you don't understand, try to see the video repeatedly 2 to 3 times, and if you still don't understand, you can always approach me at the Telegram group. You can always ask your doubts, and I will just try to make it as simpler as possible. But please be sure that this concept is something which you need to take into your head. Unit 2 is the most important, and you need to understand everything about this unit 2. So with this, I'll just conclude this video which is pertaining to your unit 1, and I'll see you again in unit 2. Have a nice day, and please be part of our Telegram group. The link is given in the description, and also feel free to post your doubts and give your suggestions if any. Thank you, and have a nice day.